Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are in Vicksburg, Mississippi at Cedar Hill Cemetery. This is one of the oldest continually operated cemeteries in the United States. Graves here date back pre-Civil War, early 1800s, somewhere around in there. Vicksburg has been a town that the French had long before the U.S. owned it, and you know, the Native Americans were here and all that good stuff. All right, we're here to find the grave of Douglas the Camel. Douglas the Camel was used during the Civil War on the Confederate side. And I don't know about you, but I thought that was fantastic. Like, who would have thought, you know, a camel of all creatures, which I guess it makes sense because they don't need as much water as a horse, and, you know, maybe they can carry more weight and all that stuff. And I'm going to try to find it. I don't know where he's at. But while we do that, why don't we talk a little bit about Douglas? And I decided to start the video here, before we get to going about Douglas, about the CSS Arkansas. And the thing about that is, if you watch The Witch's Grave, the Arkansas was built in Yazoo City, which is where the witch is buried. I thought that was kind of a cool little tie-in. And all these graves are from where that ship was destroyed. It says 23 men lost their life above in Vicksburg in one of the first naval battles to defend off Vicksburg from one of the big attacks. So old Douglas, he was part of the 43rd Infantry Division of the Mississippi Regiment, which was later known as the Camel Regiment. Let's see. According to newspaper accounts in Alabama and Mississippi, planters sought to experiment with camels, like old Douglas, for agricultural work. He was purchased by William Hargrove and was initially given to Colonel W.H. Moore by First Lieutenant Hargrove when he joined the 43rd Infantry. Besides being a mascot, Moore assigned Douglas to the regiment band, carrying instruments and knapsacks. Though the men tried to treat old Douglas like a horse, the camel was known to break free of any tether and was eventually allowed to graze freely. Old Douglas said he didn't want no part of that. He said, "No, thank you. You ain't gonna treat me like a horse. I'm a camel." Let's get up here and walk through this beautiful section of cemetery while we look, shall we? Despite not being tied up, he never wandered from the men. I mean, just because he's a camel doesn't mean he wasn't smart, right? The infantry's horses feared old Douglas, and he is recorded to have spooked one of the horses into starting a stampede, which reportedly injured many and killed a couple of horses while they were at it. Old Douglas was Douglas's first active service was with General Price in the Iuka campaign, the Battle of Corinth. Wow, we got some people coming through. It's funny how people kind of stare at you like, what in the world's going on? He remained with the regiment until the Siege of Vicksburg, where he was killed by Union sharpshooters. Or some other, people say that during the siege they were so hungry that maybe old Douglas didn't make it. They may have, taken his life to eat him because they were so hungry. But the story with the sharpshooter goes that they were so enraged by his death, the men swore they swore to avenge him. The colonel enlisted 6 of his best snipers and successfully shot the culprit. Beaver reportedly said, "I refused to hear his name and was rejoiced to learn that he had been severely wounded." So that's old Douglas. Who would have thought that the Confederate Army would have used a camel to, carry goods, and he was enlisted in the, the musical department, I guess you could say. So here's the grave. As you come in from the entrance down there, you just pull up the hill, and you can't miss it because there is a little thing sticking up out of the ground that says Old Douglas 43rd Infantry right here. And here's his tombstone. Here's the camel, and it says, let me get a little closer for y'all. It says, Old Douglas was the faithful, patient camel of the 43rd Mississippi Infantry. Volunteer. Douglas was a dromedary camel and was given to Colonel Moore by Lieutenant Hargrove. Moore assigned Douglas. So yeah, a Confederate camel. Who would have imagined? And the last thing we're going to do is drive over the hill and go see the graves of all the Confederate soldiers that are buried here in this cemetery. Because what you may not know is in Vicksburg, all the Confederates are buried in a separate cemetery from the Union. At the actual national park of the battlefield, that's all Union soldiers, and the Confederates are buried here at this cemetery. So let's go check those out real quick before we go. You can see the plaques. So this is where all the Confederate dead, or most of them, are interred at. I think there's 5,000 to 9,000 somewhere in there. Something like that. So let's see what this says real quick. Angel of Mercy. During the war and thunder, the roar and thunder of the war between the states, it was time to tend the wounded and the dead. The Sisters of Mercy of Vicksburg put their teaching careers on hold and volunteered their services. These heroines of the war have seen little recognition for their contribution and sacrifices, so now we wish to honor their memory. So here's the Confederate dead of Vicksburg. That's a thing from the American Legion. So yeah, Confederate camel and the Confederate dead from Vicksburg, either from the artillery or something like that. So hey, I hope you enjoyed everything. You're probably gonna have to move. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Apparently this cemetery, I don't know what the deal is, but there's people everywhere. Oh, that's from the Daughters of the Confederacy. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the camel. And this is the Confederate dead of Vicksburg. This is going to keep going on the Vicksburg, the series that I'm doing while I'm here. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, doing all the things. And if this isn't your first time, hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoy the camel. I hope all the other Vicksburg stuff that you're into it. And you know what? You never know what you're going to find on the back roads. We'll see you guys later.